He is the TNA World Heavyweight Champion. He is Moose.
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. It is a true honor to have you on.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Of
Honor being,
course. Well, let's start with the first and most important question, and it's what got you into pro wrestling? We know that there is a history there. We know that that was in your first pit stop in your career, but what made you finally get to pro wrestling?
it was just something I wanted to do as a kid. I was a big fan of it. So when I had the opportunity to end my past career to get on, I took the chance.
That's awesome. And, you know, at what point did you like it? What did you watch that made you fall in love with it? Was there anything specifically that, you know, caught your eye?
Yeah, the '92 Royal Rumble was my first experience with watching wrestling, and that made me obviously a big fan of Ric Flair, and that's when I fell in love with pro wrestling.
All right, great. So tell me about your career so far. Was there any match that you had that, you know, even to this day you look back at it and you ask yourself, you know, how did I do or anything? Was there any match that you look back to that you just keep on thinking about? It was just that good.
Every match I have is a learning experience for me. I look back at all of them and try to find things I could use to make myself a better performer, pro wrestler, and so yeah. I would say every match I've had that I look back on it and critique myself and rate myself, and they all mean something to me.
Perfect. So I love Impact Wrestling. It's one of the greatest promotions we have right now. While COVID hit and you know we can't go to events, at least we have amazing wrestling. And I feel like you're holding that on your back. I feel like you are the main sponsor, the main brand, face of the brand. And I try to know how you feel about Impact. You know, you've been there for such a long time. You've had so many memorable history, rivalries. What can you talk about with Impact?
Rivalries. I mean, the two that stands out in front of me is first the rivalry I had with Eddie last year, or maybe a couple of years ago. I took that. I think that took my character and myself as an entertainer to another level. And then the one recently I had with EC3 also took myself to evolved my character to another person and changed me as a performer also.
Yeah, I want to talk about the one with EC3. You know, everyone's talking about AJ Styles and The Undertaker and how, you know, memorable that match was because it wasn't a regular in-ring match. And I always look back at you and EC3 and your rivalry, how it was everywhere but the ring. You know, you guys fought everywhere you guys could, and it was just awesome production, awesome video. How did you feel filming that whole thing? How did you feel, you know, doing something different, a little bit different than being in-ring regular matches?
It was definitely cool. That was my first cinematic type match. So that was different for me. But I mean, everything working with him was great. I've worked with him before in the past, and a regular match, I guess you call it. But this was even special because it was the first time doing a cinematic type match.
Yeah, and I want to ask, whose idea was it to bring out the TNA World Heavyweight Championship? Because again, that stole the entire atmosphere in Impact Wrestling when, you know, a character like yourself, you made the decision to, you know, make yourself the champ just because you deserve it, and you don't need production, you don't need, you know, people telling you, hey, you have to win the title. You basically changed the landscape in wrestling where I could do whatever I want if I'm good enough and no one could stop me.
That was definitely not my. I mean, as usual, all that stuff comes from the writers, and they put it in front of me. I just have to do my part to take it and make it me, and that's what I did.
Awesome. So now let's talk about a few people that you haven't faced that you would like to. Who are a few names? And I know that's hard to say because you've versed so many people. Is there anyone that you look at and you go, I need that match one day or hopefully?
I'm not one of those guys that think about dream scenario matches. I live in the now. I live in the present. So just whoever they put in front of me, I'll try to make the best of it.
Awesome. All right, so tell me about your match going into Sacrifice. Where are you at? You know, where's your mindset? What's the goal? What's next after you finish that. What are the plans, if you don't mind?
I mean, obviously, my goal is to be at the double champ, Impact, World Champion, and TNA World Champion. So that's my mindset going in to come out the match with a double champion.
All right, and do you want to get back at Kenny Omega for coming in, taking a victory in your house, in your place? Are you anyway after Swan? Are you anyway looking to get Kenny Omega from a different company and make a name there?
My focus right now is on Rich Swan. So I'm not one of those guys that think ahead. I'm thinking about what I have present. So after Rich Swan, you can ask me that question, and I'll give you a better answer.
All right, all right. So tell me, how was it balancing, the NFL? Tell me how that was. Tell me how that experience changed you, or what did you learn from it that you play into wrestling. That like the locker room is just like a team. Tell me how you connected both, or how it changed the landscape.
My NFL experience definitely one thing it helped me with was with discipline. That's one thing I take from NFL. I mean, in NFL, you have to wake up at a certain time and be in the meeting room at a certain time and be on the practice field at a certain time. I try to use that same discipline with my daily life right now. So, and with pro wrestling.
Awesome. So I know you told me that you're not looking to see anything in the future until after Swan. How do you feel though about the open door, about how anybody could show up from any company and basically just make it theirs? How do you feel about that?
I feel good. I mean, it makes put more fans, more eyes to our product because you never know who shows up, like you said, and that same with AEW. It puts more fans to their product because you never know who from Impact will show up. So it's great for business.
Awesome. Now, you've had quite an amazing career. When I first watched you, it was when Cody and you had a rivalry. It was a short rivalry, but that was around the first time I could say I watched Impact for the first time. Tell me, how all this, history, all this amazing things to do with Impact can get better. Tell me what you would want to do with other wrestlers that you haven't done yet. Like any other goals, any other type of matches, any other. Because I love the Iron Man match you guys had with the timer. That one was amazing. Tell me anything else you would like to do. What kind of other matches you would like to have?
Like I said earlier, I live in the now. I mean, I'm one of those guys that when I go to work, whoever's on the board, that's my partner for the day. So, I mean, obviously AEW have a lot of guys on their roster that I could possibly have a good match with, but there's no reason naming them because you never know if it's going to happen. I don't want to give fans like this tell them a lie that or get them hyped for something that's never going to happen. So I mean, I'm happy we have an open door with those guys, and you never know what matchups will happen.
All right. So tell me, I remember watching a lot of you in Ring of Honor. It wasn't around the same time. I was just on YouTube watching some of your matches because I, at the time started a little bit later. How did that call with Ring of Honor happen? How did you and Ring of Honor, meet? And I think that was like the first place you basically, started wrestling, like on television wise.
Oh yeah, I did. I mean, I was training for a while, and I did a tryout seminar thing with Ring of Honor, and I did pretty good in the tryout / seminar. And a few months later, they signed me to a contract.
And what was your favorite match in Ring of Honor? Now that you can look back at it and think.
Favorite match. I had so many matches, man. Like I said, they're all special. Like I had matches with Lethal, Jay Briscoe, Cedric Alexander, Roderick Strong. They're all special. I couldn't pick a favorite one because they're all special to me.
All right. And tell me how, you got into contact with Impact, because that's around the same time you left Ring of Honor, or you decided to, follow a different path. When did you decide to manage to go to Impact Wrestling and see what they offer?
I was a free agent, and I mean, I had a few people emailing me about coming in, and I just felt my time with Ring of Honor was over, and that's why decided to come with Impact.
Have you done any other tryouts anywhere else? If you want to share, have you ever done anything? No.
Yeah.
All right. Well, another thing I really enjoyed was how you changed your character over time in Impact. How you got, I don't want to say you got more of the Ric Flair. A lot of people like to call it Ric Flair with the robe and everything, but I feel like you made it your own. I feel like it's the, at the end of the day, it's completely different. The Titantron music is different. The entire ring gear. I love the fact that you add, the Future Legends logo on either your knee pad or on your trunks. I think that's awesome. I love the style of gear you have. I'm a huge Future Legends fan. And I'm just curious, what you were thinking when you decided to do all those ideas.
Just changes. You try stuff, different visions that you have, and I try it. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. But the look that I have now is definitely the look I'll be keeping for majority of my career because it fits me and I like it.
When you heard the Titantron music for the first time, what did you think? Because I get chills every time I hear it.
It feels special every single time. I still get goosebumps coming out with my entrance package.
And tell me, how was it facing Tommy Dreamer in what he calls a hardcore match?
It's good. Tommy Dreamer's a legend. He's always going to be a legend in business, and he's always a guy that brings the best out of me. It's always cool with wrestling, especially when it's a hardcore match, because that's what got him popular. That was his thing, so.
One thing that I am still just amazed about is you're already, one of the biggest guys in the locker room, one of the, toughest. And, when you came out of a few weeks ago, you were completely ripped, beyond belief. What have you been doing protein wise? What have you been working out? Because you're on another level compared to a lot of the roster.
Just dieting and working out harder and doing a bunch of cardio. And that's it, just staying consistent.
Can you give anyone some advice of if they also want to follow that protocol, or the way that you're dieting, the way that you're taking care of yourself?
I would tell them just be patient. It's not going to happen overnight, and listen to whatever your coach tells you.
All right, awesome. So I know that Sacrifice is coming. I know there's a lot going on through your head. Is there any gear that you decided to do? Any kind of special gear that you're gonna wear for this match? Have you excited? Because the one thing I like about you too is you put a lot of ideas into your gear. If it's Ultimate Warrior, if it's Macho Man, anything like that. I love the fact that you style up your gear. Do you have any specific gear being made for Sacrifice?
No, I'm just sticking to my black and gold colors. I feel like that's what you're going to get from Moose from now on. Just the same black and gold in every match.
Oh, really? We're not going to get no more style, iconic, no more?
I'm done with that. I'm done with that.
Why? I'm curious. If you don't want me asking, what?
I just felt like I need to be myself. And, who knows? Maybe down the road we might see something, but it's not in the imminent future. It's not happening.
All right. So again, you're doing a lot, and again, I know you don't want to talk about what you can do next, but have you, thought about, after Impact, after you take care of business there, have you thought of anything from that point on?
No, just focus on what I have and what's going on with Impact. I'm big on being in the present, so I don't like thinking future and all that. I work with the present, so as of right now, we're Impact, and we'll see what happens.
All right, and now I like to ask questions to a lot of wrestlers, and I know, you have so many awesome matches with so many awesome people. I know you can't name it, but if people, are just watching this now and didn't know who you are because they're not in the bubble of independent wrestling, can you name a few matches that, you had that you want people definitely to check out if they want to learn more about who Moose is and the character that, they're listening to?
I would definitely tell them to watch the match with Rich Swann, March 13th at Sacrifice.
All right. And after you do become the double champion, is there anything that you are gonna call an Impact? Is there anything that you're gonna do differently than anyone else that was champion? Are you gonna have an open challenge all the time? Are you gonna do anything differently than other wrestlers?
No, I'm gonna try to be the most dominant champion that Impact Wrestling's ever had. That's my goal.
Who do you think is close to you, if there even is anyone in that locker room that you think could definitely handle a match with you? That it would be a neck on neck match.
Um, Nobody. I think I'm the most dominant guy in the locker room, and I've proved that in the last year.
All right, and are you any way worried if TJP option sees the X Division Championship? No, not
No,
at
not
all.
worried. No, not worried. Not at all.
Just in what the imagination can really give out with Impact Wrestling. You never know what can happen, so you
All
always
right.
gotta be ready.
All right.
All right, so I'm curious now what it took to you for training. Where did you go train? What school did you go to? Is there what was the hardest thing you had to do in wrestling? What was one of the most challenging things you had to discover by yourself when it came to becoming a pro wrestler?
I think when I started, the most challenging thing was hitting the ropes. It was, that's probably what most wrestlers will say, hitting the ropes, because you get a sore in your rib cage, back area. Um, but when I started my training in WWA 4 in Atlanta, Georgia, and then moved to Windsor to train with Scott Demore at BCW for a little bit.
All right, and what was your first match like? If you can remember it, what was the first match like? Were you good? Were you bad? If you look back at it.
First match is always bad. It's always bad. Like, I mean, like, it didn't happen overnight. It took years and years to be where I am today.
Do you remember what kind of gear you had in your first match? Do you remember like how you set yourself up?
I think I wore a singlet, maybe. Definitely a singlet.
Looking back at it, was that a good choice or?
Yeah, because it made me who I am today.
Awesome, awesome. And tell me, being an independent scene, I know that was a short thing for you being an independent circuit until getting signed with multiple different wrestling places, if it's Ring of Honor or Impact. Is there anything that you took from independent scenes that are very different than taped wrestling events?
Yeah, what not to do when you're on TV, if that's the biggest thing.
All right.
Because it's two different styles, and you can't work that independent style on TV. So I try to not do anything that I would do in the indies, because it's probably all wrong.
What was the weirdest place you've ever wrestled in the indies? Like, what was the most, outrageous?
The weirdest place I ever wrestled, probably a strip club, but that's when I just first started. The school that I trained at when I first started was attached to a strip club, and they would have shows in there. So for sure, definitely the weirdest place to wrestle at.
All right, all right. Tell me what was the largest crowd you ever worked and the smallest crowd you ever worked?
The smallest crowd is now no crowd.
Well, okay. Let me instead of no crowd, COVID, before all that.
The smallest crowd probably 20 people, and the biggest crowd probably 40,000 in Mexico.
Oh wow, okay. What was the match? What was the match in Mexico?
I don't remember. It was a tag match, maybe, but it was in Triple Mania. It was like 40,000 people that night. It was a 6-man tag.
How was Triple Mania? Because I know it's a whole different atmosphere, from wrestling now and wrestling in Mexico. Do you have any stories about Mexico?
I'm not a big fan of the Mexican style wrestling, so you're not gonna hear any good stories from this side. But the crowd, the crowd is the crowd. It's the same atmosphere everywhere. They love wrestling, and they love the luchadors, and I mean, it was definitely a fun experience.
I was more interested. I wanted you to talk more about like I've heard a lot of stories. I've interviewed a lot of wrestlers talk about being in Mexico and having weird altercations, like being stopped for no reason. Because when you're a talent going there, there's always precautions you have to take and fears. Have you ever had any altercation there or any?
Never had any problems or issues traveling in Mexico. No, I've never had any issues or problems traveling anywhere.
All right, thank God. All right, great. All right. All right, so now we are dining down. I don't want to hold you for too long, but I do want to ask a few more questions before we end this. Next question was gonna be, after finally Wrestling Independence, finally coming to Impact. Is there something that you remember that you truly make it your own? Like the time stood still. Where was the one match where time basically stood still? Where it's like, from all this time, from all this training, even though I'm not where I want to be, this is still a huge ground moment in my career.
I told you, the two matches that stand out to me is my match with Eddie Edwards and my match with EC3. I think those were the two defining, evolving points in my career.
Can you add on to that more? Why it's Eddie Edwards? I love the Eddie Edwards storyline, but I'm curious.
Just the pace we had and the story we told in the ring and the chemistry, and the way I felt I grew as a wrestler throughout that whole feud.
All right. Can I ask more about when you were in Impact and one of the people grabbed you by the shirt, you got really mad? Do you care about who you go through in Impact? Do you'll hurt anyone that disrespects you or affects you? Is there any precautions? Did you get any not suspension, not expulsion, just anything? Did you get any notice for doing something like that?
You do, but at that point, I'll take the consequences at that point. Whenever I do something, I'm always willing to. Already, there's going to be consequences. I'm always willing to take whatever the consequences are.
All right, awesome. And now that you are now the TNA World Heavyweight Champion, it wasn't officially announced in Impact. It was definitely shown that you're the champ, but it wasn't officially announced until yesterday against Jake Something. How did that feel? How did you feel about battling Jake Something, especially after he disrespected you through your entrance and everywhere? Is that a lesson to anyone else who does that?
I feel like everything I do when I wrestle is a lesson to everybody in the locker room, man. Them making my title an official title, I didn't feel it anyway because I've always been the TNA heavyweight champions, and I've always been a champion there. So they just did what I already knew. So it doesn't, no feelings. It's just, it is what it is.
But how does that work to go against management? Because again, you are telling a story that every fan loves a renegade, every fan loves a rebellion. What is going through your head after doing things that that you don't care about the consequence, you just care about sending the message?
That's just who I am. I don't care about the consequence, and I don't care about what they have to say about what things that I do, because I know I'm one of the top guys there, and they're not going to fire me. The worst they would do is suspend me for a week or duck my pay. So I'm willing to take the consequences.
All right. And how has COVID hit? What have you been doing on the meantime? What kind of hobbies have you been up to? What have you been, just doing with yourselves now that you're not as flexible as, wrestling was before? Now it's more restricted.
I'm just always in the gym working, watching film, trying to get myself better, watching my stuff, critiquing myself. That's pretty much what I do on a daily.
All right, and how do you feel about the no crowds? A lot of wrestlers take the energy from the crowds and bring it to their matches. How do you feel about there being no crowds? Is that a pro or a con?
It sucks, but we have a vaccine going now, so hopefully in the next few months, we'll be back to normal, and we'll be able to wrestle in front of crowds.
All right, awesome. And, I want to end it off on a really cool note. Well, if Swan was listening or anything, what would be any words you'd want to tell Swan before sacrifice?
Get ready to hand the title over to me.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching ARWP, and we'll see you guys next time.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. Thank you for coming on.